accidentally cheated right after we had our first baby, and now he won't even look at me.
I accidentally cheated on my man just after we got our first baby. I have never felt so scared of losing anything in my life. I am afraid my fiancé will leave me and it is all my fault. It was an accident, I can swear it was, but I know how stupid that sounds. I need advice on what to do before I make the wrong move and lose it all. My fiancé, M30, and I, F28, welcomed our baby girl 5 months ago. It was the happiest moment of our lives, and my fiancé's love for me grew even more. Everything is perfect, but I am scared my poor decisions will take it all away from me. I met my fiancé almost 10 years ago at my 18th birthday party. My parents were extremely strict and they never allowed me to go to parties or even throw parties. I lived a very normal life with my parents and my 2 sisters. Ever since I was a little girl, I counted the days to my 18th birthday because I knew turning 18 would give me a little bit of freedom. I had a friend named Anna. She was an only child, so she grew up with a lot of freedom. Anna promised to throw me a birthday party in her house. After a lot of persuasion, my parents gave me permission to go, but on the condition that I took my older sister with me. Anna dressed me up and even lent me her best dress. The party was nothing like I'd ever seen before, but something else caught my eye. My fiancé, Chris, was the center of attention at my own birthday party. I found him extremely confident and attractive, and so did everyone else. I was too shy to say hi to him, but Anna wasn't. After speaking to Chris, Anna told me she had a crush on him. I was surprised because my friend was never one to crush on a guy first. Chris was charming and snobbish at the same time, and these were qualities Anna was drawn to. 2 weeks after my party, I ran into Chris at the grocery store. He recognized me as the birthday girl, and from there, we started talking. I was extremely shy at first because I had no experience with boys, but Chris was warm and friendly, so it was much easier. Soon enough, Anna, Chris, and I became a trio. We did almost everything together. I knew I liked Chris, but I brushed it off because Anna already confessed her feelings for him to me. 1 year later, Chris and Anna started dating, and I decided to give them space because I did not want to be a third wheel. Chris and Anna dated for 1 more year, but something happened. Anna told me she got drunk at a party and cheated on Chris. I kept her secret from him, but Anna cheated on him many times after that. One day, Chris found out and they broke up. Anna blamed me for their breakup and accused me of telling him. I told her that wasn't true, but it fell on deaf ears. That was the end of our friendship. Anna moved out of town with her parents and Chris went to New York to study law. I also got into college soon after that. 4 years later, I graduated from college and moved to New York for work. Coincidentally, I ran into Chris when he came to the boutique I worked in for shopping. I was really shocked to see him, and I could tell he was surprised too. We spent hours catching up and talking about life. It felt like I was in a dream. I could not believe that I ran into my old-time crush. I discovered that Chris was now a lawyer in a very successful firm, name withheld for personal reasons. He was earning 6 figures every month and he was quite popular. Chris was from a rich family and his parents were well-known people. I worked as a fashion designer in a luxury boutique, name withheld, and Chris would always find time to come see me. Months flew by and soon, Chris and I were good friends again. After 1 year of flirting, Chris asked me out and it was an instant yes. Our relationship became pretty serious and we could not spend a day apart. I was the envy of his female colleagues because Chris never hesitated to bring me to his workplace. Life was good and I was living the life I always wanted. A few months later, on my birthday, Chris gave me the sum of $500,000 as my birthday gift. I was so grateful because it was more than enough money for me to start my own boutique. 1 year later, my boutique was already running and I had enough money to build 5 more. Chris was also promoted and we earned more than enough money to take care of ourselves. Chris proposed to me a few weeks after his promotion and I said yes, instantly. I was so excited that I did not resist posting it on my Instagram account. Chris bought a house months later and asked me to move in. My parents wanted us to get married first, but I talked them out of it. I wanted the perfect wedding with Chris, so I did not want to rush it. I already met Chris Pattons by that time and they were nice. They were also against us moving in together without getting married first. Chris told me his family was a very traditional family. Just like my family, they were strict. After a lot of persuasion, his parents did not have a problem with us moving in together. Life with Chris was great and I fell in love with him every single day. He was caring, generous, and extremely loving. He treated me like I was the only woman in the world. Anytime we had disagreements, Chris would never raise his voice or try to snap at me. He was always calm and ready to listen to me first. Chris took care of me when I was sick and would miss work for me sometimes. I cherished every moment with him like it was the last because I never believed I deserved him. Some months later, we decided to have a baby. After weeks of trying, I got pregnant. Chris was overjoyed and I could see the excitement in his eyes when I broke the news to him. He did not let me do anything after that. I had a stress-free pregnancy and it was beautiful. When I gave birth to my daughter, Chris' love for me multiplied. I was insecure about my postpartum body, but it was never a problem for Chris. He took it upon himself to work out with me and get my confidence back. Our daughter was like the icing on the cake because we already had a happy life. She multiplied it for us. I posted a series of pictures and videos of myself with Chris and our daughter in a joint Instagram post with Chris. That was the beginning of my problems. I had just 1,000 followers on Instagram. When I made those posts, I didn't expect it to get as much engagement as it did. Chris was quite popular, but I did not think people would take an interest in his personal life. If only I did not make those posts, I'd not be in this predicament. 3 months after our daughter was born, Chris went on a work trip to Italy. He was not going to be back for 3 weeks. Parting with him for that long was hard for me, but I had no choice. He had to go to work. He already took weeks off work after I gave birth to our daughter. The first week without Chris was depressing and boring. I tried to focus on work and our daughter, but none of it seemed to excite me. I knew it was going to be difficult, but I never expected it to be as depressing as it was. Chris had spoiled me with his presence so much that I was too used to it. Before the work trip, the longest we had stayed apart was 3 days. Chris called me every day, but it was just not enough. I missed and craved everything about him. It was just the first week and it was already feeling like a month. One day, my personal assistant noticed my mood and invited me to a party. I was not used to partying, but she promised it would be a good distraction. I spoke to Chris about it and he encouraged me to go. He did not like the way I looked tired when he video called me. I dropped our daughter off at his mom's house before going to the party that night. I wore a black knee-length gown that was not too revealing. I was not looking for a partner, I already had one I was extremely proud of. I took just 1 drink at the party because I did not want to get drunk. After 2 hours, I was ready to get home and snuggle with my daughter. On my way out, I met a guy named Roy who was just as tall as Chris. He looked so much like my fiancé that I had to do a double take. The only difference was the eyes and face. Chris was also more muscular than him. To my surprise, Roy asked me if I wanted a drink. I politely declined, but then he insisted. I did not like the idea of a stranger buying me a drink, so I tried walking away, but Roy said something that made me stop. He told me he was Chris's friend and Chris asked him to keep me company. I found it weird because Chris had never introduced Roy to me before, but Roy said he was not based in New York. He went as far as telling me some things about Chris. I believed him because Chris was not one to speak to just anyone unless he knew them well. Roy bought me a drink and I made the mistake of drinking it. After another drink, I was dizzy and I had a headache. I told Roy I wanted to go home and he offered to take me home. I dozed off in the car and only woke up when Roy tapped me. He told me I was home already. He guided me out of the car, but I noticed that we were somewhere else. I asked Roy where we were at and he told me his car was faulty and he could not drive it further. I told him I would rather take a cab home and get to my daughter, but Roy said it was already too late for a cab. I thought about it for a while and gave in because I was feeling quite tired and weak. Roy guided me into what I later discovered was his house. I asked him for painkillers for my headache, but he gave me hot milk to drink. That relieved me a little. Roy showed me the room I would be sleeping in, and I thanked him before closing the door. I felt comfortable because I believed he was Chris' friend. I tried calling Chris, but I discovered that my phone was dead. I wanted to take a shower, but had no clothes to change into, so I just laid on the bed and tried to get some sleep. Sometime into the night, Roy knocked on the door. I opened the door and found him standing there in just a towel. He was completely shirtless and his hair was wet. For some reason, he styled his hair just like Chris did. He already had an uncanny resemblance to Chris, but now, it seemed more defined. I asked Roy what he was looking for, and he told me he just wanted to grab his shirt. After grabbing his shirt, he asked me why I had not taken a shower, and I told him I did not have clothes to change into. To my surprise, he offered me his shirt and insisted I wore it. I still felt a little bit dizzy, so I decided to take a hot bath. While I was in the bath, Roy walked in completely naked. I was too stunned to say a word and too tired to move. He just quietly stood there and watched me for a long time. I snapped out of my trance and told him to get out. I kept thinking about Chris and how he would feel if he knew that I saw his friend naked. Roy ignored me, then proceeded to touch himself. He was masturbating in front of me. Imagine how confused I was at that sight. I was drunk, and seeing him do that felt wrong and exciting at the same time. It did not help that I had been sexually starved for over 3 weeks. Chris was extremely busy for 2 weeks before his trip. The temptation was too much, and then I found myself touching myself. It was wrong, I should not have done it, but I could not stop once I started. The worst part was that Roy and Chris looked almost similar. Soon enough, I thought I was looking at my husband touching himself, and then things escalated. Roy got into the tub with me and we had sex. The next morning, after I woke up with a stranger in bed with me, I knew I had made the biggest mistake of my life. My head felt like it was being stabbed with a knife. It was not just a hangover. I found out that Roy had spiked my drink with some sort of cannabis. The most shocking part is that Roy confessed that he was hired by someone to get me to cheat on my husband. He said his job was done and he left me in the house. I had consented. I knew I had consented because I still remember it all. Yes, he left me. That man drugged me, then ran away. I cheated on my husband. I thought I was having sex with my husband because the drug made the similarities between them more defined. I went back home and I felt like a cheat. I could not even look at my daughter because I felt so much guilt. Chris treated me like a queen and I broke his trust. I should not have gone to the party at all. I didn't even have time to think about who hired Roy. I was too depressed to think about myself. It's been a week since I cheated on my husband and a week till he'll be back home. I don't know what to do. I have ignored all his calls because I don't have the courage to hear his voice. I don't even know how I'll face him in a week's time. People of Reddit, I need your advice urgently. It was an accident, but I still cheated. Should I tell him the truth or lie? I cannot live with myself. The guilt is tormenting me. Please tell me what to do. I'm helpless. Update. Hi everyone, it's been 5 months and I wanted to tell you all how it's going. Some of you in the comments called me a fool. I deserve it. Immediately Chris got back, I told him the truth like most of you suggested. I don't think I had ever seen such disappointment and hurt in his eyes. He stared at me for a long time without saying a word. It felt like I had lost all his respect. After some time, he quietly went to his study and locked the door for hours. It was the most tormenting period of my life. I cried out my eyes, but I never knocked on the door. That would have been very selfish of me. He had every right to be angry, so I let him be. I was ready to accept whatever step he wanted to take. Even if he wanted to leave me, I would not hate him. I brought shame upon myself. I was gullible. 2 days after that, Chris forwarded a message to me. In the message, someone sent Chris pictures of me leaving the party with Roy. The person also told Chris what happened. Chris was a lawyer, so he talked to his friends, and they traced the message to Anna. Yes, Anna. Anna hired Roy because she wanted to ruin our relationship. I was so angry that I searched for Roy with the help of Chris, and then he led us to Anna when we threatened to take him to the authorities. When we finally met Anna and demanded answers, she accused me of taking Chris away from her. She felt like I told Chris she cheated years back, so she wanted to pay me back by setting me up. Roy had switched off my phone and Anna was the one who told him personal things about Chris, so I would believe him. Apparently, she had seen all my Instagram posts with Chris and got jealous. There was nothing I could do because I had fallen into her trap. I got home that day feeling defeated, but what was more shocking was that Chris asked for a break. He moved out of the house and we did not speak for 2 months. I lived a miserable life in those 2 months, but my daughter made it better. After 2 months, Chris finally forgave me and he told me he loved me so much he could not lose me. I was shocked, happy and grateful because I never thought he'd come back. We got married 2 months later with our daughter as the little bride. She could hardly walk. My life is back to being beautiful and I have my husband by my side. I hope my story inspires someone and makes them more self-aware. I was lucky to have a husband that was ready to forgive me. Thank you to everyone that commented and advised me to tell my husband the truth. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't.
The sun was already starting to set as I stood by the huge window of my office, overlooking the bustling city below. Today had been a whirlwind. 25 years I'd been with this company, pouring every ounce of my dedication and sweat into my work. And today, it was going to pay off. I glanced down at the invitation lying on my desk. It was a sleek card embossed with golden letters. John Miller, in recognition of 25 years of exemplary service, we are honored to present you with the Employee of the Quarter Century Award. Quarter century. Sounds fancy, doesn't it? A chuckle escaped my lips. I never thought I'd be at a job long enough to get such an award. My fingers lightly traced the edge of the card. I hadn't told Lisa yet. I wanted to surprise her. I imagined the proud look in her eyes, the way she'd hug me tight, whispering in my ear, "I always knew you were the best." We'd been through thick and thin, from the time when we could barely afford rent, to now, living comfortably in our dream home. This award was as much hers as it was mine. A buzz from my phone pulled me out of my daydream. It was a reminder for the rehearsal for tomorrow's ceremony. "Can't be late for that," I murmured to myself, quickly gathering my things. The office was mostly empty by now. A few colleagues waved at me as I made my way out, congratulating me for my big day tomorrow. I smiled, nodding in appreciation. It felt good, this recognition. It felt earned. The drive home was smooth. Traffic was lighter than usual, and I found myself humming along to the radio. My plan was simple. Get home, tell Lisa about the award, maybe even go out for a celebratory dinner. I'd been so wrapped up in work lately that we hadn't had much time together, just the two of us. As I turned into our street, something odd caught my attention. A car. Not just any car, but one that I recognized. Sleek, silver, with tinted windows, Mr. Gray's car, my boss's car. Why would he be here? I pondered aloud. It wasn't like him to make house calls, and I definitely hadn't invited him over. Parking my car, I decided to check our home security system via my phone. An uneasy feeling settled in my stomach when I saw that the cameras were off. Odd, I thought. Lisa never turns them off. Before entering the house, a memory flashed. I recalled an old video system I'd set up when we first moved in. It was more for fun than anything else, a hobby I picked up during one of my business trips. I decided to check it before going in. With every second, my heart pounded louder in my chest. Why was I so nervous? What was I expecting to find? I sat in my car, nervously fidgeting with the old laptop I'd kept in the trunk. Booting it up, I opened the video files from the old security system. My hands were clammy, my mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. The first few clips seemed normal. Lisa was in the garden, tending to her roses, her favorite pastime. It was calming to see her so engrossed in her world. But then the timestamp showed the hour when I was deep in a meeting. Mr. Gray's car pulled into our driveway. He stepped out, looking around before heading to the front door. Lisa greeted him. Not with the cordial nod you'd give a colleague of your husband, but with a warm embrace. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. They moved into the living room. Their conversation was muted, but their body language spoke volumes. They laughed. They shared a bottle of wine. The same wine Lisa and I had been saving for a special occasion. At one point, they danced, her head resting on his shoulder, both lost in the music and in each other. It felt as though someone had punched me in the gut. This wasn't just a casual visit. This was intimate, personal. I closed the laptop abruptly, gasping for air. My mind refused to accept what my eyes had just seen. I drove aimlessly for what felt like hours, trying to process everything. Every memory, every sweet moment shared with Lisa was now tainted with doubt. Was our entire marriage a lie, or had something changed along the way? Seeking some solitude, I ended up at a small park we used to visit when we were younger. It was our spot, a place where we shared dreams, made plans, and promised to be each other's forever. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sitting on a bench, I tried to recall any signs, any hints that might have indicated Lisa's change of heart. But all I remembered were the good times. Sure, we had our disagreements, but what couple didn't? Nothing that would warrant this kind of betrayal. My phone buzzed with a message from Lisa. "Hey love, where are you? I made your favorite for dinner. Hope you'll be home soon." I stared at the message, feeling a strange mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. How could she act so normal? Did she think I wouldn't find out? Or did she not care? Tears threatened to spill, but I held them back. I needed to think, to plan my next move. I couldn't confront her without evidence, and I certainly didn't want to make a scene. I needed answers, but first, I needed to gather my thoughts. The sun was barely out, casting a dim golden hue over the city as I started my day. I hadn't slept much. Every time I closed my eyes, the images of Lisa and Mr. Gray replayed in my mind. It was torture. As I got into my car and drove to the office, I could feel a deep sense of unease. Every red light, every pedestrian seemed like an obstacle, delaying me from finding some answers to the chaos that had become my life. I had always taken pride in my office, a corner spot with a panoramic view of the city. But today, the skyline, usually a source of inspiration, felt mocking. Instead of focusing on work, I found myself watching the people down below, wondering how many of them carried secrets of their own. When lunchtime rolled around, I knew I couldn't face the office canteen. I texted Roger, "Need to talk. Usual spot in 20?" His reply was instant, "Be there." Our usual spot was a small, out-of-the-way cafe where we'd shared countless conversations over the years. It was private, away from prying eyes and eavesdropping ears. As I sat waiting for Roger, the aroma of fresh coffee beans being ground felt oddly comforting. When Roger arrived, his face was lined with concern. "You look like hell," he said, ordering us both a coffee. Taking a deep breath, I relayed the events of the previous evening. He listened intently, only interrupting to ask clarifying questions. Once I finished, he took a long sip of his coffee, seemingly collecting his thoughts. "Before you confront Lisa," he finally said, "you need undeniable evidence, something she can't refute." I nodded, recalling the grainy security footage. "But how?" He hesitated for a moment. "A private investigator. It's the best shot we've got." The idea seemed drastic, straight out of a detective novel, but I was desperate. Roger quickly jotted down a number. "Her name's Clara. She's discreet and the best in the business. Call her." With Roger's encouragement, I dialed Clara that evening. She had a calm, collected voice that instantly put me at ease. After explaining my situation, she agreed to take on the case. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. Clara was in constant touch, updating me on her findings. She tracked Lisa's movements, her meetings with Mr. Gray, and even their conversations. Each revelation was like a dagger to my heart. However, one evening, as I was poring over some reports, my phone buzzed with a message from Clara. "Urgent meeting needed. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. My office." The weight in my chest grew heavier. What had she found? I arrived at Clara's office promptly at 9 a.m. The air was thick with anticipation. Her office was located in a nondescript building, ensuring her client's utmost privacy. The room itself was dimly lit, with walls adorned with various awards and certifications. However, one particular wall caught my attention. It was covered in photos and strings connecting various clues, like a scene from a detective film. Clara, a tall woman with sharp features and an even sharper mind, gestured for me to sit. Without wasting any time, she turned on a projector. The screen lit up with images of Lisa and Mr. Gray, some of them in places I recognized, like our favorite restaurant and the park where we had our first date. She began narrating her findings. Over the past few days, I've observed a pattern. They meet up at least 3 times a week. It's not just casual encounters, John. I've recorded some of their conversations. She played an audio clip. Hearing Lisa's voice was painful, but what was more painful were the words she spoke, her intimate tone with Mr. Gray, and the laughter they shared. They discussed future plans, vacations, and even mused about a world where they didn't have to hide. I felt a rush of emotions: anger, sadness, disbelief. "How long has this been going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "From what I've gathered, it's been at least a year," Clara responded. A year. A whole year of deception. I struggled to process it all. "Did you find anything on what they're planning next?" Clara hesitated for a moment before continuing. "There's an upcoming business trip. Both Lisa and Mr. Gray are booked for it, but the peculiar thing is, they've booked a single room." It felt like the room was closing in on me. Clara handed me a folder containing all the evidence, photos, recordings, and even some of their message exchanges. "You deserve to know the truth, John. I'm sorry it had to be this way." I nodded, barely holding back tears. "Thank you, Clara." As I left her office, the reality of it all sank in. I had to confront Lisa, but the thought of facing her was daunting. How do you confront someone you've loved and trusted for over 2 decades? I drove around the city, lost in thought. Nightfall approached, and the city lights seemed to blur together. I pulled over, gazing at the river. The shimmering water reflected my own tumultuous emotions. Taking a deep breath, I picked up my phone and dialed Lisa's number. It was time for answers. The ringing of the phone seemed to last an eternity. When Lisa finally picked up, her voice was light, unsuspecting. "Hey John, how was your day?" Hearing her voice brought a flood of memories, our wedding, vacations, shared laughter, and dreams for the future. But now, it all seemed tainted. I took a deep breath to steady myself. "Lisa, we need to talk. Can you come home now?" There was a pause. She must have sensed the urgency in my voice. "All right, I'm on my way." The waiting was torturous. Every tick of the clock felt like an echo in the vast emptiness of our home. The door creaked open, and Lisa walked in, concern evident on her face. "John, what's going on?" I spread out the evidence Clara had given me on the table. The photos, the audio recordings, the messages. Lisa's face turned pale as she took in the undeniable truth before her. Tears welled up in her eyes as she began. "John, But I raised my hand to stop her. "Just tell me why, Lisa. After all these years, why?" She looked down, struggling to find her words. It started innocently. Business meetings turned into lunches and then dinners. We found comfort in each other's company. I never meant for it to go this far, John. But over time, the line between friendship and something more blurred. I am so sorry. I could feel my heart shattering, but a strange calmness settled over me. We built a life together, Lisa. Shared dreams, made promises, and you threw it all away for a fleeting moment of happiness. She sobbed. "I know I messed up. I know there's no excuse for what I did. I wish I could turn back time. But some things, once broken, can't be fixed. The trust that was the foundation of our relationship had crumbled. Lisa, I think we need to take some time apart. I need to process this, heal, and decide what's next." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand, John. I'll move out for a while." The following days were a blur. Lisa moved in with her sister, and I was left in our home, surrounded by memories of better times. Friends and family reached out, offering their support, but the loneliness was overwhelming. I decided to sell our home and start afresh. With every item I packed, I let go of a piece of the past. It was painful but necessary. I realized that sometimes the hardest part of moving on is accepting that the other person already did. The finality of signing the divorce papers was heart-wrenching, but it also marked a new beginning. I embarked on a journey of self-discovery, traveling and meeting new people. And though the pain of betrayal never truly goes away, in time, it becomes a scar, a reminder of battles fought and lessons learned. After everything that's unfolded, I find myself standing at a fork in the road. The weight of the decision I need to make feels like a stone in my chest. You see, some say love is forgiving, and that time can mend the deepest of wounds. Others argue that certain betrayals are unforgivable, leaving scars that never truly heal. My heart still aches when I think of Jane. The love, memories, and years we shared can't simply be erased. I sometimes wonder if we can rebuild, start anew, and perhaps find a way back to each other. But then, the pain of her betrayal, the hurt I felt that day when I watched that footage, hits me like a tidal wave. You, dear viewer, have been with me through this tumultuous journey, witnessing every raw emotion and every twist and turn. And so, I ask you, what do you think? Should I consider giving Jane a second chance, believing in the power of love and forgiveness? Or do you think what she did was utterly unacceptable, a violation that no amount of time or remorse can mend? I eagerly await your thoughts. Your insight might just be the beacon of light I need in this storm.